ready, man? Party people in the place to be. It's about that time for us to.
Yeah. What's up, chiropractors? This is Dr. Silveri, your guide up the mountain to $1 million practice. If you're looking for the roadmap to grow your practice fast, then keep on listening. This is the Path to $1 Million podcast, where I chat with today's most successful practicing chiropractors. And remember, if you want to get there faster, visit getmemorenewpatients.com to find out more about Leverage Media, the most comprehensive digital marketing agency for chiropractors on the planet.
What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and welcome to another episode of Path to $1 Million podcast. I'm here with my new friend, Steve Shoshany, in the heart of New York City. What's going on, man?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
I feel honored.
You're my first New York City interview, so I'm excited for it. So for those of you who don't know Steve, he's been in practice here in New York City pretty much the whole time you've been in practice, correct?
Over 20 years, 23 years.
Wow. You look like you've only been in practice for like 10 years.
See the grays? Yeah, they're there.
So for those of them that don't know you, give them a little bit of background. Where'd you go to school? How'd you end up in New York? How's life been?
All right, I graduated life in 1996. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in New York, and I wanted to be back in my hometown of New York. I took a practice over in 1999. And I've been here ever since, growing the practice.
And we are on Broadway.
On Broadway, right off Bleecker Street. So the heart of, we call it NoHo, north of Houston, and then there's Soho, south of Houston. Right. So nice.
This is a fancy area.
Yeah, you could say that. It's like, a lot of stuff going on over here.
It's fun. I love. This is like my favorite part of it. So my girlfriend and I come once a quarter to New York, and like we just stay in different neighborhoods. And like Soho is always been my favorite.
Shopping's good, food's good, it's a good environment.
Nice. So you've been in New York for over 20 years.
Correct.
And with that comes a certain set of challenges in terms of marketing. Being able to put a pin on your office and draw a 10-mile circle around your practice and show Facebook ads to them for a $29 special doesn't exactly work in NoHo. So tell me a little bit about what has allowed you to grow your practice to the level that you've gotten to.
Well, I think I was an early adopter into getting on Google. So Google Maps, which I'm sure all of your listeners are familiar with, is where you type in chiropractor and you find people that are close by. So I was on there before most people didn't have websites. Right. So being an early adopter, I was asking patients for reviews, or people were leaving reviews back then. So the number of views, the fact that it shows up, and the fact that our website is organically ranked high, it just really pushes to the top. So if you're searching for chiropractor in New York City, or back pain, whatever combination of search words, it's usually, knock on wood, in the top one or two positions almost always.
That's correct.
So that's cemented in, which is good for now.
And with Google, there's three sections. There's a Google Ads section, the Google Maps listing, and then the organic ranking.
Correct.
And it's like each one of those three has its own strategy. But I would say that the Google Maps is probably the most important of the three. I'm a big fan of Google Ads just because it's at the top of the page, but a lot of people skip over that and go straight to the Google Maps. But I'll tell you, less and less people are looking at the organic SEO stuff, and making sure that Google My Business listing is optimized with the reviews.
And also what we found helpful is photos.
Yeah.
Current photos. We have, we'll talk about that later, but I have someone in the office almost every other day taking pictures of whether it's people that we work with or techniques that we're doing, always updating it. That's been pretty beneficial.
The updating is super important, because when Google gives you something that it tells you it wants you to do, you should do it, because the more that you do the things that they ask you to do, the more relevant they see. And so with Google Photos or Google My Business photos, if you're regularly updating them, even if you're just adding pictures of here's Mary's birthday, no one really cares what the photos are about. It's the fact that you're adding new ones. You're more relevant than the guy down the street. And in New York, because I'm sure there's 1 million chiropractors within Manhattan, you're going to have to do something to show that you're more relevant than somebody down the street.
And engagement too. So you're engaging. Hey, we're launching a new special. We're doing something. Talking about whatever it is. It's important to update it. Absolutely.
So just because I just said relevancy, I want to talk about this first, because this is the way that I think that I started to connect with you. Is I saw that you were on Dr. Oz. So you've been on Dr. Oz how many times now?
10 times and maybe 11.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that kind of stuff, whether it's the doctors, Dr. Oz, those shows, Dr. Phil, like those shows that reach the masses, I just feel like you're doing so much, not even just so much for your practice, because we talked about like your demographic doesn't really watch Dr. Oz, but what you're doing for other offices around the country and around the world that do watch Dr. Oz, because there's a lot of people in Springfield that watch Dr. Oz, and when they're exposed to chiropractic or they're exposed to decompression or laser, because we do all that in my practice, they can then go look it up and be like, hey, I wonder if somebody in Springfield does it. And I've gotten multiple new patients because they're just like, oh, I saw something on Dr. Oz about, headaches or back pain or whatever it was. And so like YouTube videos have become kind of the new thing with that. Like a lot of Gonstead doctors will get patients because there's a really big Gonstead guy in LA, in Australia as well. And so people will specifically look up Gonstead, and I feel like you being on Dr. Oz has helped a lot in terms of like the mainstreaming of chiropractic.
I agree. I mean, I was happy to do it, and I didn't get a ton of business from it, so I give without expecting anything back in return. Right. So it was just good exposure for me, good practice, but I'm glad it helped, and that was the goal. Yeah, well, that's great. So tell me a little bit about how you got on Dr. Oz, and a little bit about the experience of like, if a chiropractor does make it, we're both friends with Dr. 𝗪𝗵𝗁, who helps chiropractors get on TV. And so if you do get asked to be on the news or on a show, what have been your experiences? What's kind of been some tips that you could give them to help with that? Well, for me, the producers always reached out to me. I didn't pitch anybody, whether it was the early show or the Today Show, Dr. Oz. I never sent a pitch deck and say, hey, I want to talk about this. They just had a producer that said, hey, we need a chiropractor to talk about this. Let me find out who is a chiropractor. They do their background check. They want to make sure that you have your competent, they do their homework. So they'll Google you. I bet you they Google me. That's probably how. So they Google me and they said, okay, great, this guy, he's on YouTube, he's got a couple videos. Let's see if he's interested. And I went in, did it, and they called me back and called me back again because I was available, didn't ask to get paid for my services, and I always said yes. So they said, can you do this? Yes. Even before I knew what it was. So it's not, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yes. I like to move my calendar around. Yes. So that was it. It was just saying yes to the producers and getting back to people quickly and training my staff to know, because there's a lot of people that call my office and say, hey, we want to get you on TV, and it's, we have to pay. It's like, I don't know if you've had that experience. Yeah, like the local stations and like smaller markets, they're like, they got to go out and like sell. Right. So they're like, hey, can you be our expert on chiropractic? And it only costs you $9,000. Exactly. Right. No, so they know now to say, hey, if it's a producer from so-and-so, put that call through, drop whatever you do with patients and give them that phone call, because they're like next. The producers are looking next. It's like, that's how it is. Yeah, that's great. So when you, as the 10th show, I'm sure went smoother than the first show. Right. When you get on TV, what are some of what are the three things that you try to really focus on when it comes to like having a good session, spot, whatever it's called? Rehearsing, obviously, all professionals before they go on and do a movie. I mean, I'm not an actor, but you rehearse. You got the actor voice. So. Well, thank you. Well, you rehearse. Bruce Willis, the haircut, right? Rehearse, and it's helpful to know what they're going to talk about. And almost all of the shows, they kind of give you like, hey, we're talking about this. These are the questions. These might be your answers. So I rehearse bullet points. Like these are the 5 things or 6 things I want to come across, and not to talk too much, and also talk at a level that most people can understand. Because if you're jibber jabbering about technical, high word, no one's going to get you. So basically, a 7th or 8th grade, the way you talk is what they wanted. Talking to middle America, people need to understand what you're talking about. Yeah, and the rehearsal part I think is super important, just because you don't want the first time that is coming out of your mouth to be in front of, in case like you get nervous or something. Well, so like getting used to that. I've done TV a couple times, and that was the secret. Well, that Dr. Oz episode we did when it was about the stroke. Do you remember that episode? That was where it was me, Dr. Oz, and a vascular surgeon, and it was a Playboy model that had died from stroke. So that was in the billboard behind me is, "Can your chiropractor kill you?" So that was something that needed to be well rehearsed. So I reached out to some of my colleagues and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing and I need help. So it's okay to ask for help. If I reach out to Jerry Klum, reach out to Dr. 𝗪𝗁𝗍𝗪, and we talk to experts in the field, and we said, hey, this is the question, what's the best answer? Because I necessarily didn't have the best answer, and I wanted to look best in the profession. So reaching out to experts sometimes is necessary. If you don't have the answer, get the answer.
Again, that spot was probably seen by more people than any other individual spot about that for like having a chiropractor on. So it's probably important that you got that one right.
Right. Yeah, it was very important. So that was a lot of rehearsal and a lot of like making sure what I said was, you know, documented and right, so I didn't look stupid or they make the profession look bad. So you know, that's as long as I got that through.
Well, for the profession, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got Dr. Oz. We talked a little bit about the city. One thing that I didn't know before I got here was that you have a full-time videographer, content helper, and I just think that's interesting because that's the first time that I've seen that in a practice that I've been in outside of my own. So what caused you to decide to do that?
It's a great question. He's been with me for about 6 years now, and prior to that, I realized video was important, whether it's YouTube or this is before Instagram, taking pictures of what you do so you can put them up on the website, or creating content, blogging, vlogging, all the stuff that we're doing now. And I'm not the best writer. I'm pretty good in front of a camera, but I'm not great sitting down at a computer writing stuff out. So I put an ad out looking for someone that has experience in doing video work and someone that has experience in writing. And he's been with me ever since, and we basically start out a day like, hey, what are we going to talk about today? And whether we do a quick story for Instagram or we do a quick video on YouTube, we'd like to document it. And I wish we could document more, but you know, a lot of our patients don't necessarily want to be in front of a camera. So we do our best, you know, finding out particular cases. Is it a plantar fascia? Wow, we should record that and put that on YouTube. So we hired him, and he's been with us ever since, and it's been invaluable because you need to document what you do.
And how much time is he in the office?
About 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending if he's going on vacation. So it's kind of like an easier job for him to say, hey, I'm off for a week. Okay, well, that week before he goes, we make sure we have some stuff in the pipeline that I could put up myself.
Right, because it doesn't, like, no one knows that it happened today.
No one knows.
It happened a month ago.
Or, you know, or something that we reposted from a year ago. So, again, it's something I feel like we're never doing enough of. You know, and I feel like
I feel the same way.
I feel the same, but never doing enough. Our Gary V, our friend,
our best friend, your neighbor,
my neighbor, he's saying 3 to 4 times a day. I mean, that's you know, it's a lot.
He's saying 100 pieces of content a day. Wow, that's his thing right now.
Well, for let's say an average chiropractor, 3 to 4 is
that would be great.
That'd be great.
One a day would be
one amazing. A day would be great. So that's, you know, having someone here to document it, like, oh wow, I get this celebrity patient, let me see if it's okay to take a photo. I mean, you want someone to take it, or a really interesting case. This guy's not going to be able to, you know, move, walks in pain, walks out in pain. You want to video that. So having someone that has experience with the technology is good.
I you know, I looked at your Facebook, I looked at your Instagram. You're definitely more, you know, interested in making sure that the Instagram profile looks right, which in a city makes sense. So you've been doing it for 6 years now, that's longer than we've been creating content. Like we started about 4 years ago. So 6 years ago, that was, you talk about early adopter. That was early.
Early.
So was that mainly like was he doing 20 hours a week back then too, or is it kind of evolved into that?
Probably, but back then he was probably doing other things. Like what really worked for us in the past was press releases. You know, press releases worked really well. Every time we got a brand new laser, every time we hired a new acupuncturist, every time we brought on. I just got finished my certification in ART. It was newsworthy. We did a press release. We put that out. It got links back to our website. We're not seeing press releases having as much traction as they used to. So now we're doing more like obviously the Instagram, or anytime we go and do a lecture at Warby Parker, you know, we're going to document some of the lecture and post it up on the different platforms.
So and this is part of that. I mean, for a long time now, you seem like you're really like what is working, what is happening, and it's like, okay, press releases aren't working anymore. Instagram is. Let's focus our attention on Instagram. But it's like people get too married to what has always worked, and they don't want to like shift into what is working or what might be working, you know, here in the next 3 to 6 months. And I really like that about you because you're always kind of trying to evolve in terms of the marketing. But all that stuff you did in the past, who knows if that press release was the thing that got the Dr. Oz producer to call you. And whether it's Dr. Oz's producer or whether it's the next new patient, when you're just always trying to do the things, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like we said, we'd always like to be doing more. But you do as much as you can. You do it as well as you can. And you try to get the message out there in whatever the modern communications. The press releases were the modern communication 10 years ago. They were cutting edge. Now it's Instagram, now it's YouTube, now it's Facebook. But you've got to make sure that you're staying out there where people's attention is at.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what our boyfriend 𝗪𝗵𝗁𝗂 says. You know, so you were the first other chiropractor that I ever saw, like on Facebook. You taking a picture with him in the Hamptons,
East Hampton Airport.
It
was early morning, heading back to New York.
Yeah.
The commuter flight. And I saw him, and I was actually listening to his podcast at the time.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and no one around him knew who he was.
Yeah.
These are all like Wall Street, you know, tycoons that don't care who he is because they're making millions.
Right.
But for someone that's an entrepreneur or a hustler,
Yeah.
that's, you know, and super nice guy. You know, took a photo.
And now you're neighbors, and
I bump into him, but no, not friends. I just, when I see him, I say,
I think you're probably friends. Like he would consider you guys friends. So what's been your biggest? Because that's how we ended up starting to talk. Because you opted in for the interview that I did with him. If you guys haven't downloaded that yet, Gary V, the letter V, interview.com. You can get the whole interview of how Gary recommends going from $0 to $1 million practice. So what's probably the biggest thing? What's the biggest thing that he's influenced you on in terms of the way you think about content or marketing or business in general?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So it's basically creating content without expecting anything in return, and just giving without expecting anything in return. And that happens a lot, where if like you go to a company and you give a lecture and present information and you don't have any people booking that day, or you didn't close them, because that's a big word in our profession, closing people. I don't need that. I know that it'll come back, and it might benefit someone in the room, and a year from now they might come in. So, and not getting bent out of shape because you didn't get a return on investment. And I think that's a small-minded way of thinking. So it's just a bigger way of thinking, like giving, and if something comes back, great. If it doesn't, don't get angry, don't get bitter, because that's going to happen a lot. And just don't get frustrated.
If you have I would imagine you plan on having this practice for the next 30 years or however long. Like, it's not like you're selling it in the next 6 months, right?
Not in the next 6 months. Not in about 30 years, but you know.
Right. Let's call it 10 years.
10 years.
If you plan on being in this place for 10 years, a 10-year marketing strategy is probably a good idea versus like running 30 days at a time, everything doesn't have to show an immediate return.
Correct.
It's over time, those like little bricks start to build up that wall. And it's like, now you've got something of substance at the end of the 10 years. You have a reputation, you've created value. Like maybe you did that thing at 𝗪𝗵𝗶𝗿𝗶 last month and nobody showed up this month. But then they referred somebody because they didn't really think they needed you, but their husband did in 3 months. But it's like now you're and in a small town, it's even more important than in a place like Manhattan where there's a million different options for everything.
And you are the guy, so that's what happens. And it's always that way. You're going to give, and it'll eventually come.
I agree. I think that's probably the patience part of it is probably the biggest thing for me. So with let's talk about Path to $1 Million podcast. So we have basically, I think that there are 3 stages to building $1 million practice: 0 to 250 a year, 250 to 500 a year, 500 to $1 million, and then staying over $1 million. So the Path to $1 Million podcast is basically around, like, it interviews people that are either currently above $1 million or have met one of those 3 stages at in some length of time. So you're currently over $1 million. So talk to me a little bit about the visits you're seeing per week, new patients per month, and kind of like the structure of the office. I know we've got integrated and different things going on here.
So we've been consistently over 200 a week. We average about 60 to 80 new patients per month. Our office is multidisciplinary, so it's not just chiropractic, it's chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture. We also have physician's assistants here under medical doctor doing things like trigger point injections. Sometimes we do IV therapy, some joint injections, stuff like that. So that complements what we do here. And if it was a standalone chiropractic, I don't know if it would be that high of a number. But I think bringing different disciplines in, and patients like it because everything's under one roof. Is what we hear a lot of. Oh wow, the chiropractor and acupuncture, and oh wow, I don't have to go to one place. So that model has been great for us.
My model and my practice is the same, to where we're not integrated, but we have lots of different services. We've got massage and a gym and acupuncture and and we have lots of equipment. And that's what they say is they like to have everything under one roof. So my thinking on chiropractic for offices, it's like you've got to pick a pole. You either need to run it lean and mean as just a chiropractor and just talk about chiropractic and just do the adjustment and don't get stuck up in all the other things, or you need to try to get everything under one roof and make it convenient for people. I think the people that get stuck in the middle are the ones that end up really struggling, because it's not enough services to where people like see it as like a real value, but then there's all the complication that that you and I know about that comes along with dealing with all the different moving parts of practice. Yeah. So you're still seeing patients, right?
I'm still seeing patients.
How many patients a week do you see?
I see a good number of them, at least probably 70 to 100 to maybe more.
Yeah.
But we're working on bringing in new associates and training them up. Yeah. So I could do more of the stuff that I enjoy doing, like TV or lecturing in front of a group, or just brainstorming how to make this practice in this economy of healthcare grow in the right direction.
So either one of my superpowers or one of my big flaws is that I just start giving unsolicited advice to people that did not ask for it, especially ones that I just meet. And like we were talking for 5 minutes, I'm just like, oh yeah, you need to completely stop seeing patients and just focus on the business building side of it. And I think you're probably getting close to that.
I'm getting close to it. That's why I'm actively recruiting, and it's letting go a little bit. Letting go of the strings is a little difficult.
That is one of my superpowers. I'm good at.
You're good at it?
I'm like I just assume that everyone's better at it than I am, and I'm just like.
That's been a difficult thing, is letting go control. Because this is your baby.
Yeah.
So letting go of control. You have patients that are your favorite patients, and they like you, but that's a little bit of the challenge.
Yeah. So the letting go is the hardest part, but once you have that mastered, then it's. I told you my first associate. I was seeing 30. I had 2 offices. I was seeing 30 people a week in one and 40 people a week in the other. And you were like, I think you thought that I said like 30 a day. I'm like, no, 30 a week.
Crushing.
Yeah, people that are at like 300 a week, they're like, I don't know if I'm ready for an associate. Am I busy enough? I'm just,
yeah, 300 a week.
Yeah, you're busy enough. So you live like you're like living the lifestyle that I love. Like you live like right by your practice, because we're like. Again, we're in the heart of
2 miles. I have a Vespa, and I just zip back and forth.
Nice.
Zip back and forth.
That's the life, man. I live in the Loop in Chicago right now, and it's like the closest thing to New York in the United States, I think. And I try to keep my life within a 3-block radius. Like I drive like once a month, and so I'm always jealous of anybody that's like living, not jealous, but like appreciative of anybody that's living that life.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you got 200 people a week, you got 60 to 80 new patients coming in. What's kind of the breakdown, like where are you getting your new patients from mostly?
Like I mentioned earlier, Google is the predominant, and also referrals from existing patients. Okay. We've been in practice in this area for over 20 years, so whether it's NYU, which is, you can throw a rock at it from here, that the Student Health Center knows that we're a great office for chiropractic and PT, so they'll send people over, or Rockstar Video Games is down the street, or Mac, all these different companies, Facebook, people come here and they know that we're good, we work with them, so they'll send us patients. Nice. Referrals are big. And also, don't want to plug ZocDoc. Yeah. ZocDoc has been a source of new patients for us, but we're a little contention with them right now. But that's also, if you're in a metropolitan area, whether it be Miami, Chicago, California, they are a national network. They're not going away, they're only growing. And the younger audience, they're looking for a chiropractor tomorrow, they go to ZocDoc. It's kind of like where you go if you want to order food and have it delivered right now. Yeah. That's, they don't want to talk to people. Just go online, type it up, reviews are there, book the appointment, it's in. So
we were talking about this before we started recording, and wherever, that's definitely a New York City thing. Like no one's going in Springfield, Illinois to ZocDoc to decide who to see. But wherever the attention is, wherever people are going, whether it's Google, ZocDoc, Facebook, Facebook groups, their friends and family, doesn't matter where it is, if the attention is there. I think I use the example of if everybody in town, in some small town, went to the local grocery store to find out like the bulletin board of like what chiropractor they should see, it would make sense to like pay money to be on that bulletin board. And it's just, you've got to know in your area if that's a thing. Like, is ZocDoc where people are going? If yes, do it. If they're going to YouTube, do it. If they're going to Instagram, do it. It's an and conversation, not a, well, ZocDoc works for me, so that's all I do.
Right.
It's like, you gotta do it all.
It's like having different fishing poles in the water, not just having one pole, using different baits.
Yeah.
And if you're not catching with one, you change it up and don't get hell-bent on it, because that's what happens. It's always changing.
Yeah.
You know, ZocDoc used to crush for us, and now we're finding that, like, wow, it's getting really expensive, and maybe we're not getting a return. Maybe we pull that back a little bit, put some more of the money in YouTube, and you know, that's how it works.
Yeah. So let's talk about the. I forgot that I wanted to go down this path on the content marketing side. So you got a guy in the office. So you're paying him. What'd you say you're paying him per hour?
It's 20 plus an hour, so let's say 23, 24.
Okay, so let's say with taxes, whatever, it's like $25 an hour. You got him 20 hours a week. That's about $500 a week, 25 grand a year, and you're able to create really as much content as you like. In the chiropractic world, you're probably in the top 1% of the 1%, but just by having somebody here. If you are a chiropractor and you're trying to create more content and you have to like be the producer of the content, and then you also have to edit, you also have to post it, you also have to like make the picture look nice, you're just never going to get enough of it done. And how has that helped? Like, just talk to me through a little bit about like how that's helped with you in terms of the content creation side of it.
Because like I said, I'm doing a lot now to begin with, so I can't even imagine doing more. But like, listen, if you're on a shoestring budget and you're straight out of school and you have $200,000 in student loans, I don't recommend hiring somebody, but maybe figuring it out. But once you start growing, maybe it makes sense to hire someone part-time, or even better yet, go to a local school and find someone that might do it for free. Because believe it or not, that's an option. You know, there's people out there that
they want to build their book.
They want to build their book of content, and you're like, hey, you know, so there's people that will probably do that for free.
Yeah.
And then you know, so but having him here has been helpful because we need content, and I don't feel like we have enough. But you know, it's always creating more and more and more. So
I would say that having somebody like that, his name's Oasis, which I like. That's really good. So having somebody like Oasis would be more valuable to you than having like the CA that sets somebody up on East End. You know, like, I just think that when you're starting out in practice, there's a lot of like stuff that you probably waste money on that I think content creation is more important than that. Right. But even if you didn't, when you start out, you have more time than money anyway.
Right.
So if you have the time to do it, you can do it more yourself. But when you get to the level that you're at, you don't have time to be doing all of that thing.
Right. So you hire up,
right?
And, you know, find people that they're strong at that. That's not my strength. I
can
never sit and edit a picture to make it look perfect. But
exactly.
He can.
Yeah.
And when he posts it up, people are like, oh, look at that. That looks cool. And then he fits, let's boost this one, let's not boost that one, and promote it, and you know, people find it, and they find us, and that's how we continue to grow. Yeah,
and that, like, you know, my agency, Leverage Media, that's, you know, we try to make it easy for the doctor to just create the content and then let us do all the rest, because I know that if I ask you to do anything beyond just creating the content, it's just never going to get done. The content barely gets done sometimes.
Barely gets done. There's a lot going on.
Right.
And I find not everybody wants to be on camera.
So that was another thing I wanted to ask you about. So you get, you know, you do a lot of like in the moment type shots. I saw to where whether they're influencers or just regular patients, you're like capturing the moment. So you've been doing it for a while. Give us some tips on like the best way to like bring that up. Maybe you're not doing it on day one. Like, when do you usually talk about it? So give me some tips on that, on like just how to get patients to be okay with creating content.
So it depends on where you are, because in our practice we have people like celebrities, high-end people that I would love to say, hey, let's take a picture and work on you, but I just met them. Right. So I don't want to do that like day one, but let them develop trust, let them know that I'm helping them, and then ask them, hey, would you mind if I did this? Most people don't mind, but if you hit them over the head in the first visit, it's kind of like dating. You know, if you're dating and you take your pants off on the first day right away, some people may not respond well to that.
You're not
supposed to do that.
Oh, shit. Now you tell me.
Yeah, but it's like dating. You kind of court these people. So with new patients, if you know they come in and you see them in horrible condition, you might not want to stick a camera in their face unless you're treating them. The part of the deal is, hey, I'm treating you for free. Because I know some people do that. Yeah. I'll treat you for free if I get documented, or I'll treat you for half off if you get documented. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I'd rather get paid for what I'm worth, and eventually, have them say, "Hey, we did this great treatment. Let's document if you're okay with it." Yeah.
So, like, I guess, let's say I'm a patient and I'm, I've got plantar fasciitis. It's not like I'm like crawling into the office, but it's something that's like giving me trouble. How would you kind of broach that subject, because I think that's what keeps a lot of chiropractors from A, getting more reviews, and B, creating more content with patients, is they're just not really sure the best way to ask for it.
All right, so something like a plantar fascia, if the person's face is not in it, most people do not care.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, hey, I'm just gonna take a quick snapshot of your foot so I can put it on my social media. Are you cool with that? They're like, oh yeah, as long as my face is not in it. Because people have, you know, believe it or not, both male and female have body conscious. They may not want to have it out there. So if it's their foot, most people don't care.
All right, let's call it shoulder. Something that would have their face in it. Like, how would you approach it?
That's a great question. I would ask them, hey, are you on Instagram? Most people are. Would you mind if I took a picture of me treating you or one of my staff treating you, putting it on my Instagram story? Mm-hmm. No problem. Yeah. Move forward. If they say, I'm a little skittish of it, don't worry, no problem. Just back off.
Stop there.
Just stop right there. Don't push, because some people, you'll never see them again. Other people, if they're I take bodybuilders, fitness models. They love having their photo taken. So we have a WWE wrestler now, and she's amazing. Nice. And every time she comes in, we're documenting everything we're doing. And she doesn't mind, and she'll post it and share it, and that's hopefully.
This is why I asked this question, because I think that's a really great way to open it up.
Right.
Is, are you on Instagram? Because if they're on Instagram, they get how Instagram works.
Right.
You know, and they know that people need content to add to. So I think that's like an awesome way to at least start. Because that's the thing. It's like they don't need after you ask them about if they're on Instagram, then what? They just need the thing that'll start the conversation. Most people do it. I think that's a great way.
And then, hey, you know what? Why don't you follow me so you can get more followers?
Yeah.
And they'll tag you in it, and then they're following you so they can see. And again, it takes time, but it works.
Do you know how I knew this was going to be a good interview?
Why is that?
So I was looking on your social and just kind of learning more about the office. And I went on your Instagram page, and you have 1,014 followers, so 1014.
Which is not a high number. Some people have a lot higher.
But it's a special number. My girlfriend was born on October 14th at 1014. Oh. So 1014 really matters to her. So I took a screenshot and I was like, look how many followers he has. And so I just knew it was meant to be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it would have been a lot higher, because you said I've been on Instagram for 6 years, but a couple years ago I did put a picture up on the 𝗪𝗯𝗳𝗏 show, which you're not supposed to do, and it was copyrighted, and Instagram kicked me off the platform.
Oh, wow.
So I had to it's like you get kicked, you just gotta get back up and keep on going. So back then I probably had 2,000, so this is about 2 years ago. I'm like, let me put a screenshot of the 𝗪𝗯𝗳𝗏 show, and I think it's copyrighted. So before you post stuff, make sure that it's not copyrighted.
Sure. That's crazy that would be.
That was the one reason.
And you think they would at least just be hey, warning. Instead of just you're off the platform.
Off the platform. So I started from scratch, and now I'm over. Again, it's over 1,000. It's not a big deal. Some people have 50,000, 70,000. There has to be people that are engaged, and if they're local, you can have 20,000 in there all over the world, and it does nothing for you.
That's what I always think about the YouTube stuff. People ask me about what they should do for YouTube. I'm like, you should focus on local search, stuff that's going to help with local search. And on Instagram, we in my practice we probably have 600 or 700.
Right.
But they're all local, because I don't do hacky things to just show that I have 10,000 followers. I could pay somebody to get me a bunch of Vietnamese bot farms to follow me to get a big number, but I don't think that really makes any difference in terms of what it's actually going to do for your practice. Right.
And most of the people that are following me are either patients or they're people a local restaurant. So they're people in this area, and eventually that looks cool. I'll come in, they'll DM me. But again, it's a slow process. But I'm not. It's not a race. It's a marathon, right?
Yeah. That's the way to go. And you're starting a new niche practice within the practice of your porn star practice. Your porn star practice, right? So you just had your first porn star patient, and now that's going to get into that community, and that's what you'll eventually be known for. And that'll be great.
Well, it's everyone needs chiropractic care, right?
That's right.
So whether you're a late day labor or people need.
It's all hard work.
It's all hard work.
It's all hard work.
Your spine checked.
That's right.
God's honest truth.
Absolutely. That'll be the message for the next Dr. Oz. Why porn stars need their spine checks too.
And she's an awesome one too. She came in and she basically said, I go, what do you do? She goes, I'm a porn star. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. She goes, I'm always on all fours, Great personality, great person.
That's great. So the influencer side of things, if you do get somebody that's, because we were talking about whether it's an influencer that has 1 million followers on Instagram, or it's what Gary talks about with a micro influencer where it's an alpha mom in just the the Range Rover driving class at the golf course, they still influence somebody.
Yes.
And especially when it's a micro-influencer and it's local, they're going to influence other local moms that are just like them. So how do you, because I've seen on your Instagram where like they've shared things and they've tagged you, is it something that you ask for or they just kind of know to do it and they just...
Well, this has kind of been a new thing that we've been experimenting.
Yeah.
I never like to provide free. You know, I don't like the word come in for free, but if an influencer is reaching out to you and it's like, hey, would you want to exchange a service for a post? I've done that a couple of times and I have not gotten anything in return, but I got content and I'm okay with that.
Sure.
So I got a pretty girl getting her TMJ worked on by an acupuncturist, or I got somebody that has 1 million followers tag me in the post and they got a free treatment. But sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But lately I'm just like, hey, listen, if the person needs care, I'll evaluate them. I'll make sure that day one that we have pictures or some kind of exchange.
Yeah.
It's been helpful. But
I think it's, I mean, like, you know, if somebody reaches out to you specifically for that, like that, because their exposure to their audience is worth something.
It is worth something.
You know, your time's worth something. So I still think you're in fair exchange of value.
As long as it's a fair exchange of value. Like if they're coming in, I'm going to evaluate them, X-ray them, adjust them. I'm going to make sure that when I do that, my guy is taking pictures, 5, 6, 8 pictures. Yeah. So even if they don't post anything on their story or they don't share it on their post, because a lot of people they won't put it on their page. They'll just put it on their story. Yeah. And then you could share it on your story. Is that worth it? Maybe, maybe not. But hey, I got 7 or 8 pictures that I could sprinkle throughout the next month. Yeah. So that for me is worth it.
That's good. That's good. So I think that you're kind of in an interesting spot in your career, and I think a lot of people that listen to the podcast probably are at a similar thing. What are some of the things that you're thinking about right now in terms of starting to transition more into the CEO role versus the treating role?
Well, all these years I've been doing the adjusting, and it's taking a toll on me physically. I'm sure as you're listening to say shoulder, back, whatever. Yeah. I stay fit, I get adjusted, but it's taking its toll after 20 some odd years. Yeah. I'd like to have a younger, more energetic chiropractor come in to do the heavy lifting. So that's why I'm currently interviewing chiropractors. So if you're out there listening and you're looking for a job,
hey, listen,
New York City, it's a great office.
It's a cool spot, yeah.
It's a great spot, but so finding the right person that can stay with the practice and grow with the practice. I don't like having changing faces all the time. I like for people to grow and be comfortable in the practice and continue to have them almost like partner into the practice. So thinking how to make that work.
You know who I'm going to introduce you to? There's this kid that I think that he's doing a lot of good stuff. He's got a podcast called The Legendary Chiropractor, and I'm going to introduce you guys because if you could be on his podcast,
I'd love to.
Tons of like kids that are in school listen to his podcast. Absolutely. So I'm sure that there's somebody out there that would be looking for a New York spot. But anyway, tell me like what's going to be like what will you focus on? Like let's say you're not let's say you hurt your shoulder and you couldn't adjust, right? I always think that that's always a good like. Do you know who 𝗿𝗵𝗶𝗿𝗆 is with 5-star? So he always would say he had a skiing accident and then he couldn't adjust anymore. And I always thought whenever I heard him say it, I was like, I should just fake an injury. I should just so that my staff doesn't feel bad about me like not seeing patients anymore.
I think about that
because it was weird. Like I'll tell you, when I transitioned from seeing patients to not. For probably like the first 9 to 12 months, I literally just like sat in my office and wasn't really sure what to do. Because everything was going fine. Like the office was going fine. I had a pretty simple model back then. And there wasn't a lot for me to do. I'd go out and like do business building stuff. I should have done more networking at the time. But if let's say you hurt yourself and you couldn't adjust, what would be the 3 things that you would focus on right now to like try to take your practice to the next level? Because you're already you're doing great. Again, you're like in the top 1%, I would guess, of chiropractic offices in terms of collections. But everybody's always wanting to grow and do it bigger.
Well, if I wasn't actually physically seeing patients, I would still want to be in the office, being the whether it's clinical director role, and doing report findings, that kind of thing. Discussing the care plans with the patients. That would be one. But also getting out of the office and networking. Talking about our services. I like to get out of the office sometimes. Whether it's corporate stuff. That's one thing I'm passionate about. Getting to a company like 𝗲𝗵𝗴𝗵 or getting to a company like Mac or L'Oreal or Facebook even, and talking about how our team of chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, massage can help patients or help their team be sick less, feel better, be more productive throughout the day. So that's something that I'm interested in doing, is getting out there and getting in front of a crowd and saying, hey, this is what we do. This is why you should add this to your team. This is how we could bring chiropractic on site. So more of like a corporate on site, and then placing chiropractors in those roles.
Nice.
That's something that I'm looking at for the future.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to not be seeing patients to
right. So you need time to, yeah, exactly.
That's great, man. I'm trying to think if there's, we talked about the content side of things. I think you're doing such, I do, one thing I would say is, you know, I saw your Facebook and I saw your Instagram. I'm just like, why aren't they putting all the Instagram stuff on Facebook? You know?
I guess my Facebook sucks. I gotta say, it's pretty bad because we're not putting a lot of information out there, and we've done the Facebook marketing, and it's just, for us, it did not work. Yeah. And my demographic, again, they're not on Facebook.
Right.
Facebook, I mean, they're not on it. So,
but I'm saying, like, you're already creating it for Instagram. You know, I might as well.
We throw some stuff over there too. Yeah. Like, I threw something on Facebook today. Like, Google sent me a, you know, if you're a small business appreciation, they, you know, I put it on my Facebook today.
Yeah.
But for us, you know, we're, you know, I guess you got to pick your the area you want to go in.
Yeah. And
it's Google, YouTube, and Instagram for us.
All right.
Where Facebook, it was kind of like, I don't know, it didn't click for us.
All right, if you, let's say I was a chiropractor who was just starting out, and I decide, man, I love Manhattan. Like, if it wasn't for my girl, like, she's an attorney and she has to go to court, so we have to live in Chicago. But if she didn't have to go to court, we'd be in New York 100%. So if I wanted to open up a practice in New York, or in like a really or in a really urban area, what is your advice for somebody who is just starting out, whether it's like South Beach, Miami, downtown Chicago, Manhattan? What would you think are like the 3 things that they need to focus on to start growing their practice?
Getting out and meeting people is one.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're just in your office, they're not going to come to you. So having cards on, and that's what I did. Always having cards on me, and if I'm in an elevator in my building, handing them out to every time, you know, and being friendly. Hey, I'm a chiropractor, I'm in the building. That was one thing I did. The other thing I did, which I don't know who taught me this, but I carried my spine around with me everywhere I went.
This is the second interview that this will post after hers. You're the second person that said that to me. I'm like, that is such a great idea.
I don't know if I would do it now, but I did it back then, and everywhere I went, I carried my spine and put it in a chair next to me. People thought I was crazy, and eventually a couple bold people, oh, I'm a chiropractor. I'm like, oh, really? But, you know, I'm just giving cards out, so that's the second thing I would do. I probably would do that if I was doing practice.
Yeah, I was like, why would you?
And then the third thing is I would definitely get the website set up, because that's the most important thing, and have availability, you know, and even like a booking app where they could book right now, you know. And again, going back to ZocDoc, people could book right now, but there's a lot of other platforms that you could book right now, whether it's MindBody, which is one. Have you heard about that one? A lot of trainers use that. I'm sure there's like 10 other, like,
I use that for yoga.
For yoga. So having something where someone can book right now, and then obviously Instagram, you know, creating your page, documenting what you do on a day-to-day basis, and continue to do it without being...
Instagram is super important in a big city.
It's so important. And, you know, with targeting, you know, local businesses, you know, you could target them, and you could share and post, and it's been fun, it's been interesting, I have to say.
How long have you been, like, really focused in on Instagram?
It's been the last like 6 to 8 months. I've been really trying, working at it, you know, physically. Other than that, it's just been a side thing. But the last 6 to 8 months, we've been reaching out to different people, influencers, and we're like, hey, you know, come on in. We'll do something collaboratively, is what we call it. Yeah. So, you know, right now we have a WWE former wrestler, Summer Rae. I don't know. I'm not a big WWE guy. Gorgeous young lady, really smart. She has a neck injury. She was connected to me with a mutual friend, and every time she comes in, we document. We're treating her. There's no exchange of money, but there's an exchange of, hey, I'm going to document what we do, and then toward the end of it, she's going to do a segment and we'll put it up on her YouTube, and it's content. So
I'm telling you, like, people do not put a monetary value on content creation,
right? But
when you are in the content game, you realize like how valuable new, interesting content is.
Right.
Like, if you don't do anything, then like one video is probably not that important. But if you're doing a lot, having a video that has like a story behind it and that is going to get some distribution, whether it's through their channel or through your own.
Right, and she'll share it on her channel, and she's like, hey, I met Dr. Shoshany a couple weeks ago, and I came in, I got herniated disc in my neck.
Yeah.
I'm a former pro wrestler, and probably I've been body slammed, all these different things. And now that I'm not doing that anymore, it's taking its toll. So I reached out to the chiropractor, and he's been lasering, adjusting, decompression, taping, and it's been 4 weeks, and I gotta say, I've less numbness down.
That's just an amazing testimonial, whether she was a WWE wrestler or not.
Right, less
I just like if Mary the housewife gave me that testimonial, I'd be excited.
Right, and then it's a video, it's well produced. I could share it on Facebook, like you said. I can put it on Instagram. She'll put it on her story. I can cut it up and put it on Google My Business. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to get people that can come in that I can work with and get content.
Awesome, man. Anything else that we didn't really cover? Do you think that chiropractors out there listening could learn from your path?
I think the message is just continue to serve and help patients, and if you're not getting anything in return, I mean, you have to get a monetary exchange. You got to get paid for what you do.
Sure.
But just continue to provide, and sometimes don't get frustrated, because it's a frustration. I'm frustrated, but it's a frustrating. But I just keep on plugging forward.
It's a long play.
It's a long play.
Like if you have that like, what am I going to get out of this next thing I'm doing?
Right.
It's just going to lead to a lot of frustration. But if you're thinking about it as a piece to the puzzle that you're building over the next decade, 30 years, 50, whatever it is, most chiropractors don't leave their practices. Like they don't move. Like once they start a practice, they like live there for forever.
40 years.
So if you're going to do that, do it with that in mind and stop worrying about what happened this week.
Right, and have some integrity. I guess integrity is the word. I treat everyone the way I'd want my sister to get treated, or my mother would like to get treated when they come to the office. I'm going to go above and beyond and give them what they need and work with them and make sure that it's something that it's mutually beneficial for me and for the patient. So
that's awesome, man. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. You gave me an excuse to tell the IRS that my birthday trip to New York was a tax write-off. So,
cool.
And I love being able to see New York offices. They're just it's just fascinating to me, like the whole life around it. So awesome. I really appreciate you being on, brother.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, it gave you some information, and hopefully, anyone out there could benefit from it. And if you want to reach out to me, follow me on Instagram at Dr. Shoshany. Okay. And I'll follow you back, and that's way we can learn from one another. That's
and if you need a job,
if you need a job, reach out to me on Instagram.
If I didn't have leverage going on, I think I would probably take you up on that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you got some value out of this today, and we will see you on the next episode.
Just because this episode is over doesn't mean you can't continue your path to $1 million practice. We've created Chiropractic's most full-service marketing agency at Leverage Media to help you reach $1 million a year fast and continue to grow. You can get a free strategy session with me absolutely free right now. To get started, go to getmemorenewpatients.com. Once again, go to getmemorenewpatients.com, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Path to $1 Million podcast.